they have their methods to make people disappear or die, those who maybe know too much or are want to protest because they don't like what they are experiencing.
Yeah, they have such power that, like FBI's former director Hoover said, it's so horrible you cannot believe it. They have weapons today, electromagnetic weapons. They can throw them at your brain, and like you have fingertips which are unique, your brain waves are unique. Every one of the 6.5 billion people has a unique brain wave. They can take that into supercomputers, and at the moment the supercomputers are 180 trillion flops in a second. 180 trillion in a second. Our brain is only 5,000 bits a second, so we have no match to the supercomputers. But since this has been published, and usually the information that is published is 50 years old, so what the real figure is, I have no idea. Because I found out from this non-lethal weapons conference from the American representative, he said that already in 1801 the first mind control device was created. Can you imagine? 1801. And I know that in Ohio a doctor was already doing 1874 unethical research, putting electrodes into the brain of a patient, a female patient who died. So, you know, this is a century, 2 centuries old technology, and now it's coming out. This is new. It's not new. Anything that comes out from the military is at least 50 years old. And academic, especially in Europe and Scandinavia, academic research is at least 1 or 2 generations behind. They have no idea. For instance, there's a British professor, Warwick, I think his name was. He's lectured a couple of times in Finland. I only read what he has been stating. It was just crazy. He was saying that he was the first man who has placed an implant into his hand, and so he goes out and opens the doors and garage and whatever. And now he says he is the first man in the world who puts an electrode, which is a microchip, into his brain, and now he can talk to his wife telepathically. Now, already in 1952, Project Moonstruck, CIA's own project, placed electrodes into the brain and teeth of people to follow them. 1952. Now he comes out after year 2000. So, like I said, it's at least 50 years old, you know, behind the academic research about these things. They don't know about the military, or then they are bought and they are giving disinformation.
So part of the purposes of using this technology by they is to control people, is it so? This sounds a bit like the Matrix movie.
It is, exactly. Hollywood is used, absolutely used, to put out things which are true, but then they can say, but it was just a little film. Think of Independence Day. It looked like September 11th in a way. You know, people running and skyscrapers collapsing and things like that. Hollywood is totally under control and used.
They just made a movie about chemtrails.
Oh, good.
To make people
I hope they show it what it really is, because you know, like I just mentioned, that I had sent an email to a journalist I met in Germany in the conference, and I said, you were talking about chemtrails again. And in 10 minutes, chemtrails came over my house here in Soon, and they made an expendable. They've done that before. And of course chemtrails are very, very bad for the health of people, because they have, in power form, they have titanium, aluminium, magnesium, etc., barium, maybe the worst. And it comes down and you breathe it. And that's why we have asthma and bronchitis and diseases have gone up like this. And at the same time, you're implanted with a microchip, because that is metal, even if it is in a power form.
So the final destination of these programs they've been searching and researching for about 100 years is to finally can be able to control larger areas of populations.
That's right.
Like try to control the common sense of people.
It's not common sense. They want the people under total control, so that they are controlled against their own wish and own will. For instance, we have read about the school shootings. We have had 2 cases in Finland recently. Now, they are exactly a typical explanation for mind control and with delta programming, because Delta programming means that the person is programmed first to kill, just anybody, and then to shoot himself. Because when he shoots himself, then nobody can come after and question what was the thing. And usually they say, oh, it was a psychotic patient. Oh, he had problems. He was not good at school. He had no friends. He was on drugs. Whatever. That's a perfect camouflage. And that's always for political reasons. And I was shocked when I realized that. For instance, in Finland, the first school shooting happened because, I would say because, of course the guy was programmed for quite some time. Finland was the only country in European Union that voted against restriction of gun laws, because we have third most guns in the country, considering the population. But we do it for hunting. It's hunting for 15-year-olds. They hunt deer and bears and wolves and whatever that we have that come from the borders over from Russia. We have 1,700 kilometers with Russia. And the bears and wolves, they don't know that it's another country. They should come. Anyway, so after that, the next day after the shooting comes NATO Secretary General to Finland for the first time. Finland is not in NATO. The country says no. People say no. So why did he come the next day, sort of pressing? And then the gun laws were changed. That's what they wanted. But they were not changed enough. They were changed a little bit. So another school shooting after 1 year. After that, our Prime Minister said, now we really restrict our handguns. So there's always a political reason. What about Nepal? The Crown Prince shot the King and the Queen and the whole family, and then himself. Who benefits?
That's right.
The brother of the king, who was out of town and came and became king. Political again. And this goes on all over. So always ask who benefits, then you know about who is behind the whole scene.
Can you say something about the interface between legal governments, like prime ministers, ministers of defense, and these forces called they?
Well, I think actually that all governments in the Western world anyway are controlled totally. They are just, they are errand boys. They have very little to say actually, because it's the New World Order, and those guys, like President Wilson said, those control. And it's a very small group, very, very small group. If I would say one who is among those, it would be Henry Kissinger. And he was not the president, he was advisor to the president. He was German, Heinz. And then what he did, other things, you better read from other books. They're pretty bad. But anyway, he got the Nobel Prize for Peace. I mean, can you imagine? I can't understand. But that is the way when you do something very, very bad, so you get a prize. And like I said, governments have nothing to say, but the people don't know it. People go voting. They think it has some meaning. Today's voting is just ridiculous, because it's often done with computers and electronically, and hackers do whatever. A good example. When John Kerry and President George W. Bush were to be, fighting to be a president, so they showed it in internet how it was done. Do you want to vote for Bush or for John Kerry? I pressed John Kerry. Are you sure? Yes. Thank you for your vote for George W. Bush. Click. That's how it's done. And in Franklin County in Ohio, there were only 680 people, but George W. Bush got 3,800 votes. Isn't that nice? That they had to admit, because that was so gross that they said it was an error in the data. So we are steered by data, and that is very, very scary. We're not steered by people anymore. It's the super data. It's not a guy who sits there and says, look, let's put something on her. It's the data.